Good afternoon, Balaji. And as you've seen internally and externally, we've been talking a lot about application modernization and sharing some best practices across the market, on socials, and so on. And of course, we've been sharing a lot about our 2023 playbook on the anatomy of a successful application modernization. So as one of our tech experts and DevOps practice leads here at Architect, today we wanted to go over the difference between a monolithic architecture versus microservices architecture. So to kick us off, what is that? So what is monolithic architecture?
Hey, Shannon, thank you for joining this session with me. So to answer your question, right, it's a typical question in the market. What's the difference between a monolith and a microservices architecture? So monolith is something like, you have all the eggs in a single basket, right? And like pretty much your features, components, everything under single roof, right? Most of the legacy systems in the market are in monolith. So monolith are complex, very tightly coupled. So if you want to change a feature or if you want to add a feature, that definitely needs a lot of time. So scalability is definitely a concern with monoliths. If you want to have shorter development cycles, shorter testing cycles, it's a challenge. It's a very big challenge. In short, monoliths are huge chunk of code sitting under one roof.
Oh, that sounds a little bit daunting, and it feels like that would be something that would be really complicated, especially when you're trying to scale your applications and when you're trying to, especially if there's like disaster recovery that you needed. Monolith sounds like it would be very difficult and not necessarily the most agile architecture to use, especially when it comes to modernization. Now, in comparison, what is a microservices architecture?
So microservices, as the name says, right? Now you segregate your application into smaller components, right? Each and every component has a clear objective, what it has to do, right? So you segregate them and then start developing based on the priority of the feature that you want to build on, right? Now what's happening with this is the team size can be smaller, there can be shorter development cycles, shorter testing cycles, and these microservices can be deployed on cloud, on-prem, wherever we want. Each of the microservices can be built on different programming languages too, right? They don't have to be on the same programming languages. So once we establish the contract between the services will start talking to each other as expected, right? Now with microservices, you can deploy these services to cloud, right? You can use the latest technologies, containerize them, deploy them to Kubernetes, right? You can scale, you can implement reliability measures, you can do disaster recovery kind of, things with microservices. So microservices are more agile than the monolith, So you can develop what the customer needs. Also, you have very good well-architected frameworks provided by cloud providers, right? That can help you to keep security as a priority, cost optimization as a priority, reliability as a priority, right? Scalability as a priority. These things can be achieved with microservices.
Absolutely. And one thing I would love to, I guess, throw in there too is the fact that, especially in a competitive market, it gives you that opportunity and enterprises that opportunity to get out there faster, deal with any kind of issues faster. They're meeting their users' needs before their competition essentially as well, making it like the better choice compared to a monolithic.
Because the services are segregated based on one objective, right? Even if one microservices fails, it's easier to get to the failure point and rectify it, right? With monolith, everything is one big chunk of code. To get to the failure point is a little tedious and time consuming.
Well, then I guess that leads into my next question. What are some potential setbacks and risks associated with a monolithic architecture versus microservices?
Yeah, it's a good question. So monolith architectures, like we spoke, right? They're complex, and you need to know the entire application code before you touch anywhere. As in, if you want to make any changes, right, you definitely need to know the impact of it. So that's a big challenge with monolith. Development cycles might be longer. Testing needs to be exhaustive. Just because if we touch and change the code somewhere, we really want to test the application exhaustively before we release it to production, right? We don't want to have any production issues. Scalability is a big challenge. Disaster recovery is another challenge. And most of the legacy systems, cost is also a challenge there, Yeah, so these are the challenges with Monolith.
And would you say there are kind of any setbacks or challenges that microservices have as well?
Microservices too have a couple of disadvantages, right? Nothing is perfect in this world, right? Definitely there is some area of improvement for anything and everything here. So with microservices, specialization is a challenge. The team needs to have specific niche skills, right, to deploy the microservices in the appropriate infrastructure to get the full potential out of them. So specialization is a challenge here because these microservices are going to be separate from each other, right? They're going to talk to each other over a channel. Establishing that would definitely be cost, right? There'll be some cost there. So that is a drawback in microservices, right? And performance, right? If each and every microservice is built to perform better individually, that alone is not enough. Microservice 1 should be performant when microservice 2 should also be performant individually, and they should be performant together too, right? So that has to be taken care when we develop microservices. Just because each one perform well individually doesn't mean they will talk to each other and perform at the same rate, right? So these are something to keep in mind when we develop microservices.
Amazing. Well, I know you talked a little bit about the benefits of microservices and some of the setbacks as well. But I guess to wrap this up, I wanted to know, why should tech leaders consider microservices architecture versus monolithic, and why is that as part of their application modernization journey?
So for every organization, customer is the priority, right? Customer experience is the prime goal, right? From customer's perspective, a customer would love to have a user-friendly interface. He would love to have a reliable application, right? That's always available. It doesn't go down, doesn't throw errors.
In an ideal world.
Yeah, in an ideal world, a secure application, right? So these are the priorities of a customer, right? So any tech leader would prioritize these important things as the important goals for the application. And from the tech leader's perspective, the cost that is spent to build the application, to deploy the application, that is important, right? And then how secure it is, how reliable it is. From that perspective too, he'll be thinking about it, right? Now, when we develop and deploy microservices, cloud is the way today, right? Because the infrastructure is available on demand. Actually, we can create any infrastructure over a API call or a script or even manually today, right? Now, what's happening is, if we create microservices and if we wish to deploy them on cloud, the cloud providers gives us so much of frameworks, well-architected frameworks. On top of it, our company, Architect, has developed very good accelerators to bring down the time to market drastically, right? And also implement security tools, processes over each phase of the SDLC, right? Right from requirements gathering till production, right? We have taken a shift left methodology, implementing security as a not an aftermath thing, rather starting from the ground level, right? Absolutely. So we have developed some accelerators that help to bring down the risks, the cost. So any tech leader, if they want to go to cloud, they can definitely leverage our accelerators to bring down the time to market, right? So we are pretty much adding a layer to the microservices advantage to bring down the time to market even further with our accelerators. So that's the important thing that tech leaders would really like to hear, right? To reduce cost in a secure way, right? But build an application that is secure, usable, reliable, right? So they can definitely take advantage of our accelerators.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Balaji, for your time. What tech leader wouldn't want their application to be in the market as fast as possible in the most secure, efficient way that's solving their users' problems, right? It's an excellent framework that they could use and leverage using the Architect Accelerators. So I want to thank you so much for your time, Balaji, and thank you so much for chiming in and sharing your expertise with us today.
No problem. Thank you, Shannon.
No problem. Have a good night, Balaji.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.